Are you mystified and maybe even a little intimidated by this sail called the Spinnaker? Watch closely and it'll all be crystal clear.
As you can see, flying a Spinnaker is exciting, colorful, and fun. From the time the sail fills and catches the wind to the takedown, the boat is alive with activity. Jump the halyard, square the pole, trim the sheet. All at once, everyone is very busy. You'll wish you had a few more people on the boat. This is sailing at its best. And of course, it's easy to get carried away. We've almost forgotten this is an instructional video. Let's back up and look at how to rig a Spinnaker. With the boat rigged for a set on the port tack, we'll start by tracing the after guy. The after guy, which controls the angle of the pole to the wind, is led aft from a snatch block on the windward rail to the port Spinnaker winch. The after guy is led forward through the pole end and is attached to the port clew, which is left protruding from the bag. The Spinnaker sheet is led aft over the lifelines, through a block at the stern rail and up to the starboard Spinnaker winch. The Spinnaker turtle is clipped to the forestay with the halyard, after guy, and sheet attached. The pole is supported from above by the topping lift and from below by the foreguy. Once everything is rigged, you'll probably want to raise as soon as possible. Let's look at the correct procedure to get the Spinnaker up and flying right. To help make the set trouble-free, the crew is presetting the pull by tensioning and cleating the after guy. When everyone is ready, the bowman walks forward and takes the cover off the turtle. Returning to the mast, the bowman prepares to jump the halyard while the crew tails. Make sure you've taken a turn around the winch. You've just seen a pretty good set. The Spinnaker fills nicely and the boat begins to accelerate. The crew uses the winch to raise the last 8 feet of halyard. Immediately after the set, pull height and angle to the wind are important to keep the sail drawing efficiently. Let's take a look at the elements of correct pole trim. There are 3 basic rules for pole trim. Rule number 1, and the most important, is to square the pole to the apparent wind. With the pole too far forward, as you see here, the leading edge of the sail is at too great an angle to the wind, and the luff will stall prematurely. Aerodynamic lift will not develop with the pole trimmed this way. With the pole squared to the apparent wind, the angle of attack is correct. Aerodynamic lift develops near the luff and stall occurs much further back on the sail. The boat goes faster and it's easier to keep the Spinnaker filled. To minimize loads on the pole, topping lift and foreguy, adjust the pole square to the mast. This is rule number 2. The height of the pole controls the amount of twist in the luff of the Spinnaker. A good general rule is to adjust pole height so that the tack and clew are flying at the same height above the water. This is rule number 3. Immediately following the raise, the pole is a few feet low and the clew is flying above the tack. With the pole adjusted up a few feet, the tack and clew are flying evenly. The luff has more twist and the sail has a good, fast shape. Another important factor in controlling spinnaker luff angle of attack and the ability of the sail to develop lift is correct sheet trim. The general rule for doing this is to let the sheet out until the luff begins to break, and then to sheet in a few feet. By alternately letting out and sheeting in, the luff is maintained at the proper angle of attack. An effective way to trim the sheet is to have the winch tailor stand or sit on the weather rail where he or she can see the luff break. The tailor calls instructions to the grinder, who provides the mechanical advantage to crank the sheet in. In light air, the tailor may be able to sheet in without the grinder, but if the wind is moderate or stronger, the grinder is a necessity. When the luff begins to break, crank the sheet in a few feet until the luff stabilizes. This method works well, keeps the crew from getting bored, and of course, you'll get to the mark or the next port as soon as possible. If you don't want to work quite this hard, or if you have a lazy crew, it's possible to keep the spinnaker luff at the correct angle of attack with careful helmsmanship. If the luff is breaking too much, steer downwind a few degrees. If it looks too steady, head up a bit. This method is equally effective, but requires more concentration and work from the helmsman. Spinnaker takedowns can either be a thing of beauty or a disaster. The first rule of spinnaker takedowns is to do it before the wind gets too strong. The next step is to flake the halyard neatly, as the crew is doing here, so that it will run out freely when the time comes. The next step is to position one or more crew on the leeward side where they can grasp the sheet and then gather in the chute. When everyone is ready, the takedown can proceed. The key to a good spinnaker takedown is to get the wind out of it as soon as possible. This is done by quickly easing the afterguy until the pole is almost to the forestay, and then dropping the halyard rapidly a length equal to about half the height of the mast. On this boat, that's about 20 feet. After the initial drop, the halyard is released more slowly as the chute is gathered in to prevent it from going in the water. Once the chute is gathered, secure the halyard, afterguy, and sheet. Stuff it down the hatch, and you're done.